A reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him who brings glad tidings, announcing peace, bearing good news, announcing salvation and saying to Zion, your God is king. Hark, your sentinels raise a cry. Together they shout for joy, for they see directly before their eyes the Lord restoring Zion. Break out together in song, O ruins of Jerusalem. For the Lord comforts his people. He redeems Jerusalem. The Lord has bared his holy arm in the sight of all the nations. All the ends of the earth will behold the salvation of our God. Thanks be to God. Sorry, the word of God.
Thanks be
to God.
All the ends of the earth have seen the saving power of God. All the ends of the earth have seen the saving power of God. Sing to the Lord a new song, for he has done wondrous deeds. His right hand has won victory for him, his holy arm. All the ends of the earth have seen the saving power of God. The Lord has made his salvation known. In the sight of the nations he has revealed his justice. He has remembered his kindness and his faithfulness toward the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth have seen the saving power of God. All the ends of the earth have seen the salvation by our God. Sing joyfully to the Lord, all you lands. Break into song, sing praise. All the ends of the earth have seen the saving power of God. Sing praise to the Lord with a harp and melodious song, with trumpets and the sound of the horn. Sing joyfully before the King, the Lord. All the ends of the earth have seen the saving power of God.
A reading from the letter to the Hebrews. Brothers and sisters, in times past, God spoke in partial and various ways to our ancestors through the prophets. In these last days he has spoken to us through the Son, whom he made heir of all things, and through whom he created the universe, who is the refulgence of his glory, the very imprint of his being, and who sustains all things by his mighty word. When he had accomplished purification from sins, he took his seat at the right hand of the Majesty on high, as far superior to the angels, as the name he has inherited is more excellent than theirs. For to which the angels did God ever say, "You are my Son, this day I have begotten you"? Or again, "I will be a father to him, and he shall be a son to me"? And again, when he leads the firstborn into the world, he says, "Let all the angels of God worship him." The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, Lord.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came to be through him, and without him nothing came to be. What came to be through him was life, and this life was the light of the human race. The light shines in darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came to be through him, but the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, but his own people did not accept him. But to those who did accept him, he gave power to become children of God, to those who believe in his name, who were born not by natural generation, nor by human choice, nor by man's decision, but of God. And the Word became flesh, and made his dwelling among us, and we saw his glory, the glory as of the Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. The Gospel of the Lord.
In a very short amount of time, our universal church, about a 24-hour period, journeys through several different gospels when we celebrate the Nativity of the Lord. Today we really didn't hear anything about Jesus being born in a manger because John never records it that way. As we heard, it's a very different way that John records the birth of Christ. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh and dwelled among us. It's really in the Gospel of Matthew and Luke that we find the infancy stories about Jesus being born into this world. And in matter of fact, in Luke's Gospel, and I was nice to the deacon, I didn't make him pronounce all these odd names last night, but it begins actually with the genealogy of Jesus. And it's very fascinating. Most of those names we do not recognize. Some of them we would recognize. For example, King David has to be in that genealogy because that's part of the great prophetic reality when prophets start telling of Jesus that he was going to be born of the lineage of David. And so it's like 14 generations. And then it says, this is how the birth of Jesus Christ came to be. And so it's in this little cycle that we hear from Luke, then we hear from Matthew, and now we're hearing from John. And I don't want much more to say about all of it except Merry Christmas, right? It's one big feast. But no, we're going to take something away from the Gospel of John with all of this too. This past week, as I often do during the week, I do a lot of reading of different kind of articles, particularly on religious blog articles. These are once magazines that are now just online, and so I read through those. And one of the big conversations this year, and perhaps it's been out there and I've missed it, is, how did we come about to December 25th as the birthday of Jesus? Today we have birth certificates. We're very good about being precise about what happens at this moment in life. We write these things down. They come about that way. But the truth of the matter is it, again, in the wisdom of Holy Mother Church collectively decided to pick December 25th for a number of important reasons. And we are still successful in picking it, although sometimes we may not feel that way. It's not only an astrological experience of our world that basically as we get to the winter solstice, darkness becomes less and light becomes more. So that was one influence of the early Mother Church. The other influence of early Mother Church is that, of course, when Jesus was born, he was born under the Roman emperor. It was a very different world. Caesar Augustus was in charge. Supposedly there was peace throughout the world. And the only way that peace existed throughout the world was actually by brutal force. It wasn't because people were really living in peace and harmony. They were afraid of the Roman soldiers, and that brought about a peace. So it wasn't a real peace. It was an established peace in an authoritarian way. But one of those other realities is that also the church, particularly the birth of Jesus, was in a time, as is still today, when people have other gods in their lives. And they really would worship these other gods. And during the winter solstice, and you can see this in many different kind of cultures, celebrating this time of year because the darkness is going to become less and the light is going to become brighter. We always need light, don't we? Even though sometimes some of us at this age in life get around and stumble to the bathroom in the middle of the night and not turn on the lights. Worst thing you could do, that's when you fall and you can hurt yourself. We need light to move around. It illuminates. It helps us in many ways. We use light even in a medical way in our world. And so what the early Mother Church wanted to do was to help people move away from a false understanding to a true understanding. Even in darkness, that light comes, and that's what John is telling us. That light has come what? To dispel the darkness of the world. Not the rising of the setting of the sun, but the darkness of sin. That's what the light has come into this world, to illuminate us in our own path, in our own journey, to dispel that darkness of sin, so that we, as God's holy people, continue day in and day out to truly bring about the peace that Jesus brought about in this world. And how did he bring about that peace? Well, he begins with saying that God is a forgiving God. God is a merciful God. And not only can you experience it in your life, but you need to experience it in all your earthly relationships. That is how true peace begins to exist in our world. And by and large, we get it right most of the time. But there still is that darkness of humanity that exists in our world, where things really do go bump in the night. Tragic things. It doesn't take long to read those or hear about them on the news. It's a very difficult day for many people who just went through major tornadoes, some 200 miles worth, losing everything in their lives, for example. I read about another family that lost their 3 children in a car accident. Darkness comes to our world in a variety of ways. But yet you and I are here to celebrate the light of Christ that has. It's not coming at some point. The light of Christ has broken into the world. Christ has been born. He has proclaimed that good news. He has proclaimed to us what the kingdom of God is to look like here on earth and invited us to be a part of it so that it is you and I who continue that very mission of Christ to be that light in this world, to illuminate all kinds of situations, to bring people hope, to bring people joy, to bring people love and unconditional love in their life. And so we're truly here to celebrate this great mystery that we as a church, as individuals, are still called to be that light of Christ in this world. And when does that begin? And I say this over and over again. It began when we were brought to the church or the place of our baptism. And after we were baptized, the presider of the baptismal liturgy would take a little candle, and light it off the Paschal candle, the great candle that we use at the Easter Vigil. Again, when do we light that candle? We light it in the darkness so that one little flame starts to break the darkness of the world in which we live. But the presider lights that little candle and it hands it to the parents and godparents. Receive the light of Christ. This light is entrusted to you to be kept burning brightly. It's that light of Christ that we receive in our very baptism that calls us into God's holy people who still are journeying in this world. You and I are called not only to celebrate this great mystery of the Word made flesh, as John tells us in the Gospel today, but to be the carriers and those who bear this light into our world. For indeed, the power of the light does dispel the darkness.